Why does The Walking Dead still suck after 9 long years? To answer that, I will be using the last 2 episodes of Season 9 to demonstrate why it is reaching the point of no return. Hit the button. Let's get started. The Walking Dead. Let's begin with episode 15 of season 9, titled The Calm Before, and like so many other Walking Dead episodes before them, we start with a flashback. Crikey, any more flashes on this show and they're gonna move it to the CW instead. Hey there, hi there, ho there, Andrew here, talking TV shows, movies, and haunts, focusing on the first one, TV shows, and originally I thought that this flashback stuff was just a Greg Nicotero being all artsy-fartsy style, and it's not. It has spread throughout to all the other directors there and has become a show staple. Instead of using a few characters that we have to focus on the story from point A to point B, we now have a mass amount of characters that need constantly jumping back and forth in their lives to understand what they do, why they do, all that other stuff. That is just lazy storytelling at best, because AMC is not letting the audience emotionally grow with these characters. They're just giving them aha moments to figure out things. Another staple that is a disservice to the audience is what AMC continues to do in the very opening of this episode. A love story of Hildy and Miles. Who are Hildy and Miles? Exactly my point. These are 2 characters that we've never seen going from flashback scene to flashback scene, finding Hilltop to becoming part of the community. We find out that Hildy is the one that was making the H-coins that Lydia was so fond of, and we hear a quasi-soliloquy that the H on the coin stands for hope, which is completely false because we've all seen Man of Steel and know that the S on Superman's chest is not an S. It is a symbol on his planet that means hope. In either case, there is no hope because Alpha kills both Hildy and Miles and uses Hildy's scalp to make a disguise later on. And that's another problem that has not been fixed in so many years. We get moments where new characters are brought in only to go ahead and kill them off right away. It's like The Walking Dead is saying, hey, anything can happen in The Walking Dead. But that's not. It shows us that the writing staff doesn't want to take the time to go ahead and develop anybody of significant importance to kill them off unless it's a finale or a premiere of some sort. We get a point where the show is completely stacked with different characters and nobody gets any screen time at all or development, so you get actors like Tom Paine, who was an important character of Jesus, who doesn't do anything. He wants to get off the show. The last thing you want to do as an actor is get typecast in a role that you don't do anything. This leads us to a speech from King Ezekiel. Doves are released, and there is much rejoicing. Daryl and his crew arrive at the kingdom so King and Queen can hug portrait of a serial killer Henry when he gets there, and this leads us to the communities meeting up on what to do with Lydia, like a bunch of siblings deciding on who gets their parent with dementia. Hey, what are you going to do with Pop? I don't know. I ain't taking him. I will say this. I was so happy that Avina Mirner showed up in this episode. Do you have any idea who she was? I didn't. So that means that she had to go ahead and introduce herself to all the viewers countless of times to prove that she was Rachel Ward, the leader of the Oceanside.
Oceanside can spare some fighters. Oceanside's down. Count Oceanside in. Great.
Thanks for that awesome exposition into the Oceanside. I mean, we all remember how important Oceanside was during the all-out war, he says in jest. The discussion about Lydia turns into the most illogical of situations.
Fascinating.
Tara is angry because Lydia has ties to bad guys. Really, this is The Walking Dead's moral society? Michonne cut up her baby's daddy and his friend into neutered walker pets on chains. Rachel, as a child, was going to execute Aaron and Enid, a wasted opportunity in my opinion. Gabriel turned on his own congregation by locking them out of his church to be devoured by walkers and then tried to smear Rick and company when he arrived to Alexandria. Carol set people on fire for being sick and was kicked out of the group by Rick, plus Tara herself was on the governor's side back in Woodbury. We then get to see what might be considered loose ends being tightened up for character development, such as Addie and Henry talking, which is a total foreshadow of her death because we haven't seen her do anything for basically 7 episodes when she was introduced, and conversations like Enid confirming that she and Alden, the savior with a heart of gold, are actually a couple made me groan knowing that one of them is going to die. It is as cliched as a cop saying they're about to retire in an action movie. You know they're gonna bite it. You can say that The Walking Dead might be a little bit predictable because it's based off of the storylines in the comic book, but I'm going to say no, that's not the case. There have been enough switching of characters, plots have been lengthened for entire seasons seasons, etc., the comic book stories are not rules.
It's more what you'd call guidelines than actual rules.
Here is an example of the predictability of the show. Ozzy, one of the highwaymen, talk about an ambush. Then the group splits into two. Daryl, Carol, Michonne, and Yumiko go in one direction, and the rest of the fodder go off into another direction as I try to count how many red shirts are being worn. I mean, I haven't seen such a lopsided group splitting since Fred, Daphne, and Velma went in one direction and Scooby and Shaggy went in the other. And I don't want you to think that I'm just complaining for the sake of complaining. I do think that there are some things good in this show. I enjoy Samantha Morton's performance as Alpha quite a bit. Her scenes with King Ezekiel at the Kingdom's Fair were chilling, and I really enjoyed how Alpha showed a sign of strength and generosity to Daryl when showing the Walker herd. But now let's talk about the 10 on the stick, which I will lovingly call the Lollipop Guild. Go ahead, cue the Pike scene. Alright, enough with the Star Trek. After a few flashbacks wondering who are the ones taken out, we get this. Ozzy. Ticks me off. I liked them. I wanted to see more of them. Seriously, way to ruin a good thing, AMC. Alec, another highwayman that nobody knew. People just don't know enough of these characters to feel anything. And speaking of feeling anything, DJ, a former savior that did not get much screen time. Next is Frankie. Seriously, I had to look her up because I didn't even know who she was. Apparently, she was one of Negan's wives and was nice to Eugene. Then we get Rodney, a teenager that we really didn't know or care about. And Addie, another teenager that we really didn't know much about except that she might have liked Henry. Great. 2 highwaymen, 2 saviors, 2 hilltop teenagers. Who's killing these people? Noah? Actually, before Rodney and Addie was Tammy Rose, but my joke wouldn't have worked if I went right down the line, and most people knew Tammy Rose was a goner. If you read the comic books, you probably cheered for Tammy Rose being on a pike. I know I did, but with Alden, the savior with a heart of gold, looking around in a flashback, it can only mean one thing, yes?
No, yes, no, yes. No, yes.
Brilliant! And who's left? Tara, and it couldn't happen to a better person. I got nothing against Alana Masterson, and in fact, I hope she does well after this, but how did a person who originally signed on to do 3 episodes land doing 87 episodes instead? Merle was only in 17 episodes, and I feel like we got more out of that character than her, and she's been around 5 times longer. And the number 10 spot doesn't go to King Ezekiel, whom I thought that Carol was going to be crying for, but for Portrait of a Serial Killer Henry instead. Henry, look at him with the mouth open and the stick in his throat. He looks a lot like... Exactly, and you know what I say it is?
You know what it is.
Yes, I do, Gavin. It's called poetic justice, you little psycho. I've been waiting for years, longer if you include the time jump, for this tick turd to bite it. I was even willing to go ahead and turn a blind eye because he was going to fill the Carl role. Blind eye, Carl. That's a joke, son. It's going over your head. You built too low. I keep on throwing them and you keep on missing them. You got to keep your eye on the ball. Eyeball. That's a running joke, son. And this Pike stuff was going to be what shook the Walking Dead communities to its core. But really think about this. 7 out of the 10 didn't have their name in the opening credits. And how is Enid's or Tara's absence from the show going to change anything going forward? They haven't been a major part in anything for a long time, if ever. And Henry was going to fill in the romantic storyline of Carl, but apparently Gimple hates Carl or Chandler Riggs so much that he doesn't even want an understudy to take the role of those plot points. I hate to say this, but this show needs a new audience. Teens or 20-somethings would have brought in that new audience. This show is 9 years old, and some of the viewers have outgrown this show. To bring in a new fan base means to bring in new blood. Henry, Lydia, and possibly more could have helped that much dwindling, yet coveted 18 to 49 demographic. But what happens in this season finale instead? Do they up the ante? Does AMC give the fan base an ultimate 1-2 punch to send everyone into a dizzy, not knowing what's going to happen in season 10? Well, let me answer that for you. The snow glowed white on the screen tonight, not a footprint to be seen. The kingdom is isolated with Ezekiel and his queen. The wind is howling in this swirling storm outside. With nobody's hair moving, did they even try? Don't let them in, don't let them see. Be the good host you always try to be. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. Well, now you know. This show blows, this show blows. I can't hold it back anymore. This show blows, this show blows. I'm about to slam the door. I don't care what AMC will say, I will still rant on. I'm gonna be demonetized anyway. To end this season on such a meek, weak-willed episode is beyond me. None of this episode was worth it, except for the fact of Negan coming back for some much-needed comedy relief. I mean, who cares about Lydia if Henry isn't there? Who cares about Ezekiel if he isn't with Carol since they broke up because of Henry's death? Who cares about Jerry and Ezekiel if there's no kingdom? And why did nobody but Negan care about Judith when she separated from the group? And who cares about any of the characters that didn't make it in this episode? Plus, why was there so much buildup about the Whispers when they didn't even show up? And why are you freezing walkers solid that are on top of the snow, but the ones that are encased in ice or buried underneath the snow aren't? Walkers have no body heat whatsoever. They should have been all in suspended animation or just used as speed bumps. There is no logic left for any of these characters, situations, or settings. I really think that they're just trying to do things that look cool. And yes, they did look great. But the point of this show and why it did so well in the past was that this show was built on interesting characters in unique situations. We felt for them. Now, 9 seasons into it, the situations are not that unique. So you have to push the story, the plot, the character development. And that just isn't happening. It's like this show, its producers and its writers are running after their own tails, trying to catch up to what is now known as the glory days. A friendly piece of advice to anyone that is tied to the show that might be watching, and that is make Negan and Judith the new Rick and Carl Grimes. Because if not, you are going to put this show directly into the toilet, because I haven't seen anything more crappy on the TV screen before.
You pop the poop, make the grab and get a token. Catch it in midair and it's twice the points. The one with the most tokens wins. Flash and Frenzy, the game.
That's a thing? Mattel, what's wrong with you? Make sure you hit that bell icon after you subscribe so you become part of the notification squad so you get notified the moment that I upload. And I will see you in the next video.